Welcome to Eye on the Illini Live. This is Mike Kegley with Kedrick Prince. Ked, Oregon's not that good this year, but Illinois played well after a slow start and seemed to pull away. What were your thoughts on this?
Well, Mike, it was good win, good bounce back win, 80-54 at home. Oregon didn't pose a threat. It was a really good game by Andrei Stojakovic and David Merkovic. They played really well on the offensive end of the floor. It was kind of a lackluster game. I was looking to see how they would bounce back from their performance against Michigan, even though Oregon is not on Michigan's level. We obviously understand that. But it's kind of tough for Lana Altman because if you look at the preseason polls, Mike, they were one of the top 3 or 4 teams picked to win the Big Ten. They were at least picked to finish fourth, So, and they didn't have the year that they thought, but a good win for Illinois. They needed that. And I tell you what, looking at the standings, Mike, real quick, I don't want to jump ahead, but if they take care of business on Sunday when they play Maryland and Michigan can get Michigan State and Illinois has a really good shot at finishing second in the Big Ten. I mean, if you look at the standings, I mean, it's right there for them. I mean, they've taken some losses they shouldn't have probably had, but it's right there, for the taking.
Yeah, it was. The opportunity's there. Now they got to just do their part and hope for a couple eggs to break in the right way. And yes, that this is. I think this is the only year that Altman won't win 20 out there. I've always been a little bit less of a fan of him, but that's neither here nor there. Looking at it, I thought Stojakovic played extremely well. Let's go into some of the stats just so we can, we'll talk here in a minute about the stats. But I thought he played really well, and I thought that was important to get that going. You look at it. Merkovic had 19 points on 8 of 15 shooting, 7 rebounds. Boswell 3 points, 1 rebound. Tommy 2 points, 8 boards though, which was nice to see him more active there. Jake Davis 5 points and a board. Wagler, 11 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. Lee, 0 for 1. Stojakovic, 21 points, 12 boards, so he got a double-double, 2 assists. Humrickhouse, 6 points, 3 boards. AJ Red managed to get 4 shots up, 5 points. Fabemi he didn't score. Big Z had 8 points, 5 rebounds, a couple big dunks, and a couple nice block. And Petrovic was out there for 3 minutes. So the team played like you said. They didn't play a bad game. Wasn't particularly incredible. And I think ultimately, when you look at the plus minuses out there for the guys with this, you're seeing. As you look at it, kind of a few guys spearheaded it with Wagler at 24, Stojakovic and Humrickhouse at 29, Big Z at 19, and then 7 for Tommy, 6 for Jake and Kylan, 4 for Merck, and then on to some of the guys who don't play as often. So a game that I thought the Illini again. I thought they played a relatively, innocuous game against a team that wasn't expected to give them much and started off kind of hot, and Illinois shot that down. Illinois shot 41% versus 33 for Oregon. Illinois was 28% from the 3 and 17 for Oregon. 86% from the free throw line for Illinois at 12 for 14, 78 for Oregon, 6 turnovers for the Illini, 8 for Oregon, 8 points off of turnovers for the Illini, 7 for Oregon, 48-38 was the rebounding edge. Illinois also led the offensive rebounds by 14-9. Second chance points was 11-9. You might have thought that would be a little bit bigger for the Illini. Bench points 40-14. Having Stojakovic come off the bench made that stat look pretty good. Points in the paint 36-26. Fast break points 13-4. Blocks 3 for Illinois, 5 for Oregon. Steals 6-3 Illinois, and assists were 13-10 for Illinois. Oregon led for 437, and that was pretty much it. I guess, Ked, the biggest concern I have, and I know it's a little bit of being a nervous Nelly, but Illinois has got to shoot better than 28% from the 3-point line if they expect to win in the Big Ten tournament and the NCAA tournament.
We said that last week. We're repeating the same tune, Mike. They played a not so good Oregon team tonight. You play a Michigan or Michigan State or Nebraska, you lose the game. And I know people are sick of hearing it. You have to. Okay, I think a lot of people, and I haven't seen it yet, but I know somebody's going to make a comment that they thought Andrei Stojakovic was a black hole. Well, I'm going to tell you, we're all entitled to our opinions. I like it. And I wish he would do it all the time, because this team if they're going to chuck up threes, somebody has to get to the rack. Somebody has to get to the rack other than Keaton Wagler, because no one else is going to do it. Merkovic will do it some of the time. This is a part of the offense, because they're not going to shoot threes and make them. They're going to shoot them. They're not going to make them all the time. 28% is not going to get it done. We said this last week. If they're making threes, they can play with anybody. But if they're not making threes, they could get beat. And this is why I think Stojakovic is huge to have in that offense, because he's not a great three-point shooter. He's not, and that's okay. If teams play him man-to-man, or even if they play zone, he's still able to find ways to get to the basket. The shooting is a concern. I've seen some of the comments over here. They are. And I'll tell you the truth, I think that's why Brad Underwood got mad at A.J. Red. I think the shot at the end, given the situation and all the stress that's been on the program, I thought that was good. For me, it was a feel-good moment to see the kid get a three, and then he kind of laughed at Brad, and Brad was chewing him out. I thought that was kind of funny, too. I'm sorry, I really did. But I think if they would have shot the ball better, Brad knew they were struggling shooting the three, and that goes against you. He was in the game at the 3-minute mark, so that probably didn't help. But it is a concern. It's always been a concern for me. It's not like it's a secret, but if they're making them great, but the last few games, it's not been great.
Yeah, and look, that's the part that's the role that I play every year here is, wait a minute, I thought this was the 3-point team and they can't shoot more than 33%. I will say that one note, Illinois did give up wide open threes to Oregon because they were pretty certain that Oregon couldn't shoot them. So I think that was a strategy to, say, hey, if you guys want to shoot it, go right ahead. I do think that Big Z is definitely struggling there, although I thought I just don't know why they can't get him into a rim run and roll a little more often and just leave that to, give him, just let him keep doing that, because he's a threat against anybody in the country other than Mara over at Michigan. So I think ultimately, this team, if they're hot, they can play with anybody in the country. But the problem is they can be cold, and it seems much more likely to be cold than hot the way they played the last month. Now, part of it's they're playing better teams, but that's what you're going to see in the Big Ten tournament, and that's what you're going to see in the NCAA is better teams.
Here's a concern. When they get the Big Ten tournament, is not a concern for me because they're going to play again. But if you get in the NCAA tournament and shots are falling, the throats are going to tighten, the hands are going to tighten around the throat. I'm not saying they're going to panic, but they don't have anything else. This is why, to me, seeing Stojakovic do what he's doing, I don't think teams are going to defend Keaton the way maybe the first team, but on a quick turnaround, if they win their game one, teams might not have the scouting report that some of the Big Teams do against each other to stop Keaton. But I would see more of that. And I'm glad to see Brad let him cook tonight. Andre, I'm talking about, because you're going to need it. Kylan is a guy that can get to the basket. I think the last game against Michigan, I could be wrong. I thought he took his bandage off his hand, and tonight it was back on. That's not a good sign for me, even though I think he did make a three, which was kind of good. But they'll have to learn how to get downhill, Mike. And you made a comment about Zonomir. It would be nice, but they just don't run. They don't they don't push the ball to the court. And I think you can do that with Z. I think you can do that with Andre.
Well, that's how Stojakovic hit him, right?
Yes.
With that
it can be done, but they're playing the analytics. I can't. I get it. It's nice to have, but I'm just not basing my team on that. I'm sorry, because analytics don't always win, and it didn't win for you Friday night.
Yeah. Well, and I think I look at it a little different than analytics, but I look at it as what other teams will give you. And so to me, it's just kind of opportunity as you go where you want to go, or where they want you to go. So sometimes, if the teams give you the opportunity to fast break, you take it. And if they don't, then you don't. You kind of a little bit like how Luke Altmaier quarterbacks. Luke would take what was given him, didn't try to always hit the home run. And of course, people are asking a little bit about Jake starting over Stojakovic, and I think Stojakovic's inconsistency on the defensive end and his inconsistency in effort levels on the defensive end is probably part of that.
Well, here's my take on that, Mike. I love you. I don't want to contradict you, but if we're going to talk about defense, and everybody knows I'm a big Jake from State Farms fan, he's not a better defensive player than Andre Stojakovic. He's just not. I'm not a fan personally of a guy losing his starting spot to an injury. Just not. He was healthy. You bring him back. You don't bring an elite kid like that in to have him get injured, have him come off the bench. I thought his confidence was down last week. I'm just going to tell you, it really was. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm a big Jake fan. You're never going to hear a podcast from me criticizing the kid. I thought he could always shoot the basketball. But, if you're going to say defense and rebounding, Andre had a double-double tonight and didn't start. He's a proven guy that can do it. He's a guy that's, not been in the tournament to do anything. Everybody's probably seen that joke with Kylan Boswell making fun of him because he's going to get his first tournament experience. So you don't have a lot of that from him. But he brings something different to the team. And I know a lot of people don't like it. He was hunting his shots, and I like seeing it. It's just something they don't have. And I thought Michigan, I know they played Oregon tonight. Michigan was an athletic team, and I thought that was a game where you really could have utilized them. I know Brad said that. But it was good to see him smile, to get back in the groove. And, it's too bad he's not a good three-point shooter. I know the Maryland game, his shot looked different. I remember talking about that. Tonight it looks the same way it did before. So he's not shooting it consistently. But I think that's part of the reason Jake stayed in the lineup. When you look at the Purdue game, Jake made some big shots. Jake's made a lot of big shots, and he's really good when he's open. So I get it, but I would rather have him come off the bench.
Yeah. And taking a look at the KenPom, Illinois is still fifth in the country on KenPom. This may help the seeding if they do well in the Big Ten tournament, because this is something that is looked at by the committee. So keep that rating high. And, of course, I did see somebody started a thread on X that Illinois and Purdue have figured out how to fool KenPom. So obviously it was somebody who's not an Illinois or Purdue fan was going to town on the fact that they're so highly that those two teams are so highly ranked with KenPom. But that is what it is. I thought it was a funny comment. One of the things that needs to be done, I guess, Ked, at least we got Stojakovic. He is getting a little bit back into the way of the offense. Is there anything Illinois can do to get Tomislav back in the O a little bit? Or is it just the style that he wants to play that he's just going to have to shoot his way through all the bad ones?
I was hoping you would highlight that. I'm bringing that to my attention. I just think it's the way he plays, Mike. If he is he's not changing, ladies and gentlemen. He's bigger too. He's put on a lot of weight. He seems to be healthy, but it's just the way he plays. And sometimes it's frustrating because he settles for that. He's settling to shoot threes. He doesn't put the ball on the floor. He'll back you down, and sometimes if he can get you close enough to the basket, he's effective. But that didn't work last weekend or last Friday night. I just think if you're not making threes, what you see is what you're going to get out of him. I don't think he's going to. He did this last year and he made threes. He's done it all season and he's not made them. It's not going to change. I do like them playing together. I think Z's a much better defensive player. I think he's way more athletic than Tommy. Truthfully, I'd rather see Zonovan get more minutes. I mean, if he's shooting the ball and let him shoot his way out of a slump, because Z is going to at least be a better defensive player. There was a play tonight where the Oregon guard just went right around Tommy and laid it up like he was a 6-foot guard himself. That would never happen against Zonovan because they know when they see him, yes, that they do. So we're talking about defense. Well, I liked it. I know tonight Tommy missed a shot, and I don't remember what part of the game was. I think 3 out of the 4 coaches I saw started clapping. He didn't make it. They know it's a confidence thing with him. You can clearly see it.
Yeah, and I like I said, to me, if I want to get Big Z shooting, let's feed him some dunk, get a couple dunks like he got, get him feeling good about himself, then let him fire a couple up. Maybe that'll make a difference. I don't know about that. The way that goes. We've got a few days here. Sunday is the next game up against Maryland. This Illini team, what are you focusing on in practice, Ked, if you've got that team?
Illinois has played defense. I'm focusing on defense. And right now, you are who you are. You're not going to change a lot of that. You're just not. But I want to see them defend. I thought they were a little bit more aggressive tonight defensively. I like that part of it. But I also like to see them really – it's going to be tough. What are you going to do when the shots aren't falling? I'm going to harp on that. I harped on it last Friday. I'm going to do it again. Tonight, they didn't play a good team. You go to Maryland. Maryland has not been great, but they've always been a thorn in Illinois' side. If you go out there and they get hot and things don't go your way, you're not making threes because they've not done it. What are you going to do? You have to be able to do something. So you do something different. Defensively, I want to see them, be able to get stops. I know they hung their hat. I know that's what they've talked about the last couple of days in practice. I know there was a big point of emphasis with them from what I was told. And they're not going to talk about shooting because once you start talking about shooting, it gets in their head. And we know if they're not making shots, we talked about that, Mike. So I would like to see them run different things. And they do have it. And if you look at the body of the work of the season, they do have sets where they can run things to get shots for people. But in the tournament, if some team gets on a 10-0 run, good teams, really good teams, the elite teams find a way to stop the bleeding. That's what I would be really working on if it was me. That saving their legs as well.
Yeah, well, that's always so scary when we heard, we heard going into that Loyola game that the team had dead legs and, going into that and, the nightmare began all those years ago. I would really like to see them go into Maryland because play well because this would be Maryland's season. I mean, you talk about every team getting up to play an Illinois or a Purdue or a Michigan or a Michigan State. Maryland's had a disastrous season, but boy, this would be a beautiful way to end your year is to go ahead and beat an Illinois team. So I'm a little bit nervous about this game, despite the fact Illinois is clearly the better team. It is on Fox, so you've got a national game here, which I think is really important for Illinois to play well. And it'd be nice to see them come out and have a 20, 25-point victory, even if it's relative, a W is a W. But I think from a national standpoint, it would be a good way to go into this tournament.
It would be, but Mike, here's the other concern. I don't know their roster as far as their classification is concerned, but senior day. That's another part of it. And Maryland has had Illinois' number. And you're right, on national TV, I want to see them play well. If they're not going to play well, certainly don't want to see Maryland come out. And you don't want to let them hang around. You want to be able to take them out early, like you did at UCLA, but did you learn from it? You want to make sure that you learn from it. You don't want to go out and jump on them early. I do think they're going to be motivated. I thought they were motivated last Friday. A lot of people were talking about how flat they were. I don't think so. I just think Michigan's a better team. I think Michigan dominated Illinois, and they're not going to be flat. I mean, they're not making shots. But then that's when you want to see Colin Boswell. That's when you want to see Stojakovic take over. I hope, me personally, they put him back in the lineup. You're going to need him. I mean, I love Jake. Jake gives you something because then what you do is that they have to scout for Andre again. And then Jake's the guy that can come in. He's proven what he's done. And I'm not mad. I know some people are hard on starting. It matters to me with a kid like Andre. Like I said, you didn't bring a kid in like that. your most highly touted recruit to have him come off the bench. But maybe they're going to stay with it. Who knows? It worked tonight, but your opponent wasn't very good either.
Yeah, well, I agree. And Illinois really needs. I guess the other thing that I would look at doing, and I know you and Brad are more against this than I am, but I would be looking at trying to rotate, a couple different zones and man to man and keep people off balance a little bit by not playing the same defense, more than 2 times down the court, and rotate around, switch it up and try to keep teams off balance a little bit.
If they're going to play a zone, for me, I don't want to see a regular matchup. I want to see a matchup zone. I think teams' offenses are too good against zones. They played enough zone to be pretty decent at it, but against really good offenses, I think it's tough. I would have liked to see more of it against Michigan, to tell you the truth. I just thought they punished them inside. I see here Uncle Phil's talking about Arizona State about to beat Kansas. I tell you, I talk a lot about officiating a lot, but there was a call in that game that went against Bill Self. It was a Peterson kid. It was one of the worst calls. It looked like a Big Ten officiating crew. Bill Self got tossed. He got tossed out, and he should have. It was awful. I mean, the guy was trying to make a cut and was grabbed in. The guy grabbed his dress and they called a foul on him, and Bill lost it. But anyway, yeah, I'm kind of watching that as we do this podcast too as well. But Mike,
Peterson's crazy though. I got to be honest with you. That guy probably going to be one of the top 3 picks in the draft, and he'll either make some guy look like a genius, or everybody's going to be shaking their head in 5 years. But because he doesn't look like the same kid that he looked like. He's about 10, 15 pounds heavier than he was last year in high school. He's lost his explosion, but at the same time, he looks disinterested, and it makes you wonder if maybe he should have went a different route or something, different school, different route, different something, because he looks disinterested playing for Kansas, which is a hard thing to believe.
Okay, well, sorry, I want to make sure you guys can hear me. I've had concern about my mic. I thought we had it fixed. Hopefully that sounds a little bit better. I turned it up. Mike, there was a comment on here from Jay Bulk, I believe, 28454. I told you, I thought Tommy looked a lot better last year. I thought he was thinner. He had more pop on his shot. He did. And I think sometimes gaining weight is not always good for players. But he looks, if we remember what we were talking about before the Tennessee game, he looked fatigued. I just think he looked a step slower. I'm not always a fan of players gaining weight, and his shot was so much more effective. And now you go back to the Xavier game and, with Kentucky, I mean, they talked about how tough of a matchup that was because you had to guard that. So it is hard. It really is hard. And to see him struggle this year, and I don't know what his plans are for next year. I know he had every intention of going to the league, but he has not had the year that he thought he should have had, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And I it's hard to know exactly. It's hard to know exactly, what's going on in terms of, the weight gain. And again, I will tell you, as somebody who had a tonsillectomy at the age of 30, damn near killed me. And I mean, just going back to work, I was in those days, I was did a desk job running the sales training department for Novartis, and coming back to work after 2 weeks, I was shocked. I had to do like half days, and I'm like, holy cow. So I can only imagine, even as a college kid, when you're younger and in better shape, I can still think that's got to be tough. I think the interesting thing here, I'm going to trust Brandon's research, but this is why I talk about the referees need to be treated differently. They need to be employees of the conference, not just going to any game they can find to grab some dollars. And again, if they were full-time employees of a conference, they could hire more referees. They could then give them a workload that's doable. Right now, you got guys. This is a good point, because when I wrote an article 3 years ago on this, I talked to a referee who was moving up the ranks, and he's like, "I'm on the road 7 days a week, going to this game and that game." And of course, the Big Ten people love to do it because you get more money in the Big Ten and the Big 12, I think, than anywhere else in the basketball world. but these guys are working, and I just think it's hard. Think about, your own work schedule. If you have to work 7 days in a row, or you have to work the weekend, and it's like, okay, so now I'm working 12 days in a row. You get tired by the end of that second week. If you're doing 50 basketball games in 50 days, and then you throw in a flight before every basketball game and a flight after, I mean, goodness gracious, it's amazing these guys, have any type of opportunities. And again, that tonsillectomy I think was also bad. People talk about that, but um, I will say that, Brad talked about how he had Damask and Shannon, which gave you a couple ways to score, and I think maybe that's what you were talking about with Stojakovic, is you've got the three ball, that works. You got Keaton Wagler, but boy, it'd be nice if Stojakovic could get his confidence back, where, if he's taking the ball aggressively to the basket, you've got Wagler, you've got the 3-point shooters. Now all of a sudden, there's a lot of things for Illinois to force the defenders to deal with, and they're just a more well-rounded team, which should lead to more open looks, which should lead to an increased shooting percentage. Now we can't hear you. So we're running microphone checks on the fly here. So we'll give Ked an opportunity to adjust that while we're talking here. I'll go through a couple of things, and this is where coaches making millions, zebras getting peanuts. I'm not trying to say that the coaches should make less money. I'm all for paying guys dollars, especially in a job like the coaches have. But I do think the refs deserve better than what they're getting, because they are stuck in a position where they are just getting killed, from that standpoint. So I think it's awfully challenging for these refs, because they're asked to do things. And again, if you had full year-round training, they didn't have. Some of them have regular jobs that they try to balance on top of all that. So I have no idea how they do that. And it's easy. There we are. We got you now. It's we can hear you. So it's easy to rip on the refs, but these guys actually
testing 1 2. There we go.
So yeah, they're in a bad place. All right, so we got Ked. I think we got Ked back online here. It's the magic of the internet and the connectivity and hooking in everything at the same time. So
you can hear me now, hopefully correct.
Yep, we can hear you now. So here's an interesting question. We need to run booty ball actions with Andre, and I just don't know if Andre passes well enough to do booty ball. Ked, what are your thoughts on running booty ball actions with Andre? The comment on the chart on the thing there. So we're in the midst of technical difficulties. I think with Andre, if he was a little bit better.
You guys can probably hear me, but I can't hear you guys. I'm sorry. I don't know what the heck is going on with my equipment.
So as we look at this, Andre just doesn't pass well enough, and I just think that's the big issue. I do think Merck has got an opportunity to get things going, but I think Merck ends up a little bit. The ball sticks to him too, which leads to turnovers, and that turns out to be really nasty when you have Merkovich if he gets the ball stuck to him a little too long. Although I did love his running hook that he did today. Reminded me of Magic Johnson cutting through the lane, doing that little hook against the 76ers his rookie year.
I remember seeing that, Mike. You can hear me, correct?
Yep. Yep, and you're
Yeah,
not popping as much, so that's good.
Okay, sorry. I real quick, I want to make one comment. I apologize. We did work on this before. You were talking about the officiating and sticking to one conference. I watched Iowa State play Arizona last night, and I saw high knees out there. I mean, he was in Arizona, and we know how many Big Ten games he does, and then he's flying out there. So I don't know what the answer is with that. I mean, I really don't. And I think these guys are tired. I do think that, but I just want to comment. I know we moved on from that, but I want to make a comment on that.
Yeah. So, and it actually sounds much better. There's no popping right now. So, I think ultimately, when you look at this, I think Illinois is going to be in a position where they will have first off, you got to win your first game, and then they go in to play Michigan. And that is going to be a tough matchup for Illinois. But Michigan's beatable, but Illinois actually has to shoot as if they know how to shoot. So I think that is the real issue that I think is a challenge. And I do think Forrest brought up that he was actually looking to pass on his drives. I thought that was very true. And so from that standpoint, I was happy that he was doing that. Now I think we got Sturdy, who is getting in the car here. And I don't know if it's cold up there. Is it cold up there in central Illinois, Ked?
Mike, it's not cold, but I tell you, I did look at the weather. Champaign got hit hard with the storm tonight. Got hit during the game. It was a really, really bad storm. And I think it is because I saw Brad's wiper blades flashing on the screen. The weather is really bad down there.
I waited before we bring him on, and that way we get him all set up and ready to go. But yeah, this is that's the beauty of where I broadcast from. It's 70 or 80 degrees. So anyway, Brad, you ready to rock and roll?
Yep.
So give us your thoughts on a game tonight that I didn't think Illinois played bad. I just thought they played a team that was bad.
Yeah, I sat there. I was sitting there in press row wondering how they beat Wisconsin. Not Illinois. I'm in Oregon. Yeah.
No, I'm with you.
Yeah, they're not very. They're just Shelstead obviously changes things because he's a playmaker and he makes everything go. But they're not very good even with him. Don't have a lot of depth. They can't shoot the ball. And it was all Illinois took advantage of it. Now I will say this. I thought I know they're not Michigan, but the defense in the first half was so much better than it was against Michigan, just from the standpoint of the movement, the communication, getting in the gaps, hands and contesting shots, all those things that they didn't do against Michigan, or really in the last 30 minutes of the UCLA game. That they fixed, right? I mean, I thought this was better. And so does that mean that they're somehow going to be like Houston defensively? No. But they were better. You know what I mean? They just made things a little bit harder, and they followed scouting reports. I thought they did a good job with the cross match, 4-5-5-4 type thing, having Merck guard the big guy. Allowed them to take away some of his Biddle's spacing and allowed them to leave Z or Tommy at the rim. And we saw Z was really effective, obviously, in that role, blocking some shots and contesting others. So, but I think the other thing also, they're starting to find a little bit of balance. Andre Stojakovic can be a guy who can get them an easy bucket in transition. And,
yes.
and that is huge but the weird part about it is I feel like for him to be that guy, they're going to have to do things to get him the ball occasionally. I know they love playing through Keaton Weigler, and from an efficiency standpoint, that's the way to play. But you're going to have to run some ISOs from Dre, get him downhill, get him to the line, get him at touch, whatever it is, because I think everything keys for him on if he can get an early basket to go, not only does it get him going offensively, it gets him going on the boards. It gets him going defensively. It's a weird thing. We used to say, well, we've talked about him. He's got to do the defense and rebounding, and then it'll lead to offense. I think he's different. I think you've got to get him some offense, and then it leads to rebounding and defense. So it's just kind of a different. He's an anomaly. I mean,
that's not that far off of a bunch of a younger player, right? I mean, we saw that in high school a lot.
Yeah, we do. And I just think, so maybe, and I think part of it is he's just never been a part of a winning culture, and so you have to do the little things to win, and it's about winning. And so I think that's where he can make an adjustment. I thought, their ability, when you put those guys out there, when you have Stojakovic defends, and with he and Boswell and Wagler and, Merkovich, and then you have Hummer I think Hummer counts as he's become a very good defender. And
Yes.
and when Z can be a rim protector, I thought he was back to doing those things. And he also grabbed some rebounds that were better that he wasn't doing before. So, or he wasn't getting knocked off, and he was handling himself, and he wasn't losing the ball off his hands, and so forth. And Tommy went to the glass hard. Now, regardless, he isn't making shots. And a lot of people are focused on when he plays well, it's because he makes shots. And that's so simplistic. And I know it's what we see in basketball. It's like, hey, he had a great game because he made, shots. Well, just because he made shots doesn't mean you played well. And that's the hard part for people to understand. Tommy did a real nice job on the glass. I would like to see him make shots. I would like to see him be better in the post. But it's just not his game, and he's going to have to make some shots for them to win against a really good team. But his spacing opens things up so much for Keaton and for Andre. And when Kylan's, 100%, hopefully very soon, then that'll open up him too. So his spacing is a big part of that. Same with, and I know a lot of people get down on Jake Davis, but a lot of that is also his role is to make people guard him. And then it opens up everybody else to do their thing.
Yeah, totally agree with that. It seemed like Stojakovic, he had 2 assists, but it looks like he was looking for other guys tonight much better than normal.
No question. I thought he was not forcing as many things and taking, and actually, making a pass out. And I thought he had the 2 assists, but he also had multiple passes where he didn't force it and he'd kick it out and get the ball moving. There was one where he actually, so I guess you'd call it the hockey assist. He had a nice hockey assist one time. That 2 passes later, they got a wide open shot. That's huge, because now you can, if he's a willing passer, and I'm not gonna lie, I know Brad said, him passing the ball is a big part. And he said he's really improved in that area. He doesn't pass. I mean, let's be honest. I know, and Brad's not gonna say, well, he puts his head down and drives, but you see him doing some things like will open up things for everybody else. If he passes, now it's harder to collapse on him, and it makes it easier for him to finish because he doesn't have the defense collapsing on him. So I totally agree, Mike. The other thing we saw was Keaton Wagler actually a couple times playing off 2 feet, and he got one out of it. He made a nice pass one time. That's something he's got to kind of develop, because he's always kind of been the 1 foot guy. And when you jump off 1 foot, in the paint, you just go in there and jump. If you're crazy athletic, you get away with it. When you're not as crazy athletic, you can play off 2 feet, make a pass, make the other play, whatever it is. But when you're playing off 1 feet, you get bumped, especially if you're not super strong, you really go flying. And we've seen that a lot. So that's clearly something they're working on to make him better in that regard.
Who do you think they want? Well, first off, let me ask you a question. Maryland's season to beat Illinois on Sunday. How worried are you about that game?
How worried am I about that game?
Yeah.
I'm not. I mean, I think they should win. I'm going, so that means they'll win, right? I don't think Maryland's great. Maryland, one difference is Maryland will play harder maybe than we saw Oregon tonight. I mean, I think they're going to compete. But that's not a crazy raucous arena right now. It was at times, a couple years ago. Remember, I think Larry got hit with a chicken nugget.
Yeah.
But now they're down. It's not as exciting. I don't think it's going to be crazy. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know that this team doesn't play better on the road. They're going to finish if they win that game, they'll finish 7-3 at home and 8-2 on the road. Well, how many teams do that?
Yeah.
Have a better road record than home record. So, so it's interesting. But, I'm not really concerned about that game. I think they just have to – if they play well, they're going to win. they've had 2 poor shooting games in a row.
Yep.
So they're probably due for a game when they're knocking things down. And I think, that'll be that game. They'll knock some shots down, and next thing you know, they're going to, get the, I think they'll win. I don't know if it'll be quite as easy as tonight, but I think it's a game they'll win.
Okay. And then when we go in, it looks like they're pretty much, they're going to be the 4 seed. So,
well, maybe. If you're looking right now, UCLA was up.
Yeah.
Last time I checked, they were up 22-11. They were doubling up Nebraska.
Yeah, they're still up.
And so, who knows? That could open up a situation where if Nebraska loses again on Sunday, then you move. That would change that metric, right?
Yep.
So, I don't know. There's still a lot of basketball to be played. There's 70-some% chance they're going to be the 4 seed. I think somebody said so. Or then they did the analytical breakdown, and that's probably likely, but it is what it is. And, here's the reality. It might be a rematch with Wisconsin. If the way Purdue's playing right now, there's no guarantee they're going to beat Wisconsin. So they didn't play that game's when? Tomorrow night? I think.
I believe so. I think so.
So yeah, I don't know. I think you just got to see what happens. No matter who you play in that, you're going to have, it's going to be a tough game on Friday, whether you're playing a Purdue, Wisconsin, or whether you're getting a 3 seed and you're playing a 6 seed. Maybe it's UCLA. Maybe it's a rematch with them. I don't know. Who knows? But there's a lot of, there's a lot of options still out there and a lot of games to be played. But yeah, I think Illinois is the type of team, and I think this is true of probably Michigan. I think that's true of Michigan State. I think that's true of, really Purdue and Nebraska as well. They're teams that just have to worry about how they're playing at the time, because they're talented enough to do some damage. But if they play poorly, then they could lose to, almost anybody in that top 10 in the Big Ten. And so, yeah, it's just a matter of taking. I don't really concern myself with that right now. We'll cross that bridge next Monday or next Sunday night, and see where they're at.
Yep. And as we look at this, what would you be working on right now if you're Underwood in practice the next few days?
Well, I think they got to continue to do. I asked him after the game about why they seem to have defensive letdowns. They've gone from they play really good defense. The Indiana game, I thought they were fantastic defensively. They were active in gaps. USC, they did a really nice job, and then all of a sudden, UCLA, Michigan, they're bad. And then they go to. I didn't start bad against UCLA really, but they were bad on the stretch. And then tonight, they're in gaps and everything. He said they spent 2 days working on practice, so I think they got to really work on their defense. The other thing I'd like to see them work on is finding a way to run a few things to get Stojakovic involved early, to keep Wagler, the main cog, and also, get I think the other thing is finding a way to defensively still adjust and make some changes. I thought they did that tonight. There were some hard hedges. There was some switching. There was some drop. They played different ball screen coverages. They played different coverages off screens. They helped out inside. So scouting report, just continue to work on, reading scouting reports and doing a good job there. But so, and then it's just knocking out shots. This team is really good when they make shots. They're very difficult to beat. They shot terribly tonight, really. 40%, I think, from the floor, and 20-some% from 3, and they still scored 80. This is an elite offensive team. They've got and he didn't work on offense before this game. He even said that in the presser, because the defense was so bad against Michigan. They wanted to fix that, and so I think they got to come up with some easy, get an easy basket here or there. We've seen them run some sets on the first possession or two or three possessions. I think continuing to do that, but yeah, just keep getting better, because there's a lot of basketball left to be played, whether it's, even though there's only one regular season game, you got the Big Ten tournament, and then they're going to be in the NCAA tournament and should have the opportunity to make a nice run if they just play at the level they can play at.
Yeah, and I think the question mark that I have going into this team is really good. It scares me when you shoot 28% from the 3. I want to see this team, I want to see a team that goes 3 or 4 games, and I'm not asking for the world, but give me 35 to 38 every night.
No, yeah, I mean and I think that's the key. If you're going to shoot 28%, hopefully it's in the first round, because you can still win that game, right? I think if you get to that Sweet 16 and you have a bad shooting game, it makes it really tight. Tough. And I think the thing is, though, they've also had, really outside of Michigan and Connecticut, they've had a chance to win. I mean, we could sit here and with those other breaks. I mean, it would not shock anyone right now in all those close games they've lost, whether if they were they're 23-7, they could just as easily be 27-3. Right. And so,
right. Yes.
So that's, I think that's fair. And now they just gotta, you gotta click at the right stage. And that's why matchups matter in the NCAA tournament. It's also why, some teams, make runs. I mean, it certainly appears that, some of these teams are fading down the stretch, and maybe Illinois was kind of doing that, but maybe it was just they were playing some tough teams. I mean, we just saw Kansas lose to one of the worst teams in the Big 12, right? Tonight, and then
Peterson was 2 for 15. Yeah, it was a.
I mean, and you have a bad night, and then Iowa State's looked very pedestrian of late. They're not just losing; they're getting drilled. Texas Tech comes off the win and they lose. So everybody's. And I keep telling people this. I think I've written it in like every story for the last 2 weeks that everyone's losing down the stretch. And if you really follow college basketball as a whole, you see all this happening. When you really focus on Illinois, which is all really most people have time to do, you really see, oh my gosh, they lost 2 games in a row. They're going to be a 5 seed. It's just, well, in that same time period, there was 1 week when like 1, 2, 4, 5, 8, 9, 10, 11 all lost, and some of them lost twice. And they don't even lose ground in the poll because everybody else lost. And so this is where that's where, metrics matter, and that's what the committee's going to use more of. Some of the predictive metrics, some of the wins above the bubble, squad 1A wins, 1 wins, all that kind of stuff. So
how important
to shake out.
How important is it to stay I think they're 5 tonight on the Ken Palm. So how important is it to maintain that type of a ranking?
Well, I think it's important. I mean, they're 5th in the net, I believe, as well. That's where you want to be, because that when you see that ranking, it makes it easier to put them down as a 2. And I'll be honest with you, if they win Sunday, and they win, let's say they beat Purdue in the first round of the Big Ten tournament. I mean, everybody's going to be losing, and then say you even lose to Michigan in the semis. You're still probably you have a chance to be like the number 6 team or 7 team in the S curve. With those wins. I mean, you're going to be right there, depending on what happens, but you're going to be right there because you've seen all these teams. All these teams are losing, and Florida's been great, UConn's been great, but those teams kind of moved up to maybe 4 and 5, but it's wide open after that. I mean, we've seen a lot of losses from Houston, and now Iowa State, Texas Tech, Kansas. Go down the list of all the teams. Purdue. Maybe Michigan State is up there too, but Spartans have shown the ability to lose some games that they probably shouldn't too.
Yeah,
so
it's just Michigan and Duke.
It's Michigan, Duke, and Arizona.
Yeah,
and then everyone else, and then there's a hodgepodge, and maybe Florida's moving up in there. But I mean, those top 3 teams, and then you've got about 10 more teams in the next 10. That could be anybody, right? I mean, it could be any of them, and they could have a chance. And we were talking tonight. I was talking with Joey Wagner from Illini Inquirer about this a little bit. Like a lot of this team's not the best team in the country, but they're a team that can get to a Final Four. And you don't know, like 1 seeds, even though the dominant of the 1 seeds are, they're also, if all it takes is an upset. We've seen 16 seeds be 1 seed, so it wouldn't be shocking to see a 4 or an 8-9 win that game. And if that happens, that opens up a bracket. It opens up a side of a bracket, and who knows what happens then. And so they just got to keep plugging, keep getting better, and see what happens.
Well, I tell you, I think if they can get that, they can beat Maryland and they win a big game in the Big Ten tournament, I think they're going to be a long-term 2 seed. A lot of people have them at a 2 seed, and they have 7 losses, but you're right, Brad. A lot of teams have lost, but I think Illinois has a really good resume, and I think they're holding on. I mean, I think they could get that 2 seed, which I think will be good for the program. And, 2 or 3, you're right, it's kind of really irrelevant. But if you want to get a chance to go to the Final Four, to me, the higher the seed, obviously, the better. I mean, that's obviously a no-brainer. But I would really like to see them get to at least win Sunday on the big stage, win impressively, and then you get a win against Purdue. And then the Big Ten tournament, all the tournaments are upsets. I think, we talked about Michigan and Arizona, and I think they're the 2 best teams in college basketball too, but they're not undefeated either.
Yep.
Brad, the other thing that somebody asked questions about, which I think is impossible to answer now, but I want you to tell us what you think. That the question is who might be coming back for next year?
I mean, there's so much to play out. I think Merkovich is having a great year. I think he loves it. I think he'll be around. I think Jake Davis is going to be around. Everybody else, what does Z or Tommy, do they want to keep playing college basketball? Do they want to come back for one more year? I don't know. I mean, I guess that we'll have to see what happens there. Stojakovic, I mean, who knows? I mean, like we've talked about this too, Mike. Just because of his name, if he has a strong finish here, he could he could get a second-round draft and have an opportunity to play in the NBA. So I think that, just because his name's Stojakovic, right? And
exactly. And he's more athletic than his dad. I mean, those
he
is.
Together, he doesn't shoot it like him, though.
Right.
But he is more athletic. But so, I think it's so early. I mean, I can tell you Boswell, Hummerkaus, and Red are not coming back.
Red almost didn't come back from that
he almost did. That was wild, wasn't it? The looks on the faces of all the players on the court was the best part. They were like, what did he just do?
Underwood almost gave birth.
He did. He lost his mind. But, and then I think the other interesting guys are like, Jaxtus. Hopefully he sticks around. I think he'll get he'll get a medical for this year. So he really has 4 years of eligibility left. I mean, that's a guy, he's bulked up some, keep working on his skills, and you could be a valuable, guy, third, I think as a third big, he's a really valuable guy potentially. And Ty Rodgers. And what does Ty Rodgers do? How do they use him? I think Ty can be a quality player.
You think Michigan State makes a run at him?
I do. So
do I. That's exactly what I don't.
I don't think he fits. When you look at this team, he doesn't fit this team. You look at this team. I mean, like Stojakovic, I like him when we like him. He doesn't really quote unquote fit this team. I mean, he's effective at what he's doing. I thought Trey White kind of did the same thing, and he was a much better 3-point shooter than Ty Rodgers and Andre. So I don't know. I think if Andre came back, if he did, I think he'd have a much better year. I mean, and I'm comparing apples and oranges, but when you had Terrence Shannon come back for his senior year, he knew what to expect. He was different. Look at Colin Boswell from last year to this year. So Jake Davis from last year to this year, Ben Humrickhouse. So the proof's in the pudding. I think he would be really good to come back. I don't think so much as I like him, he's not good enough to play in the NBA. You got to be able to shoot the ball at his position, and he's not good at that right now. He's not.
Yeah, I tend to look at him as a guy that the NBA looks to stash for 3 years, work on him just because he's so good. Brad, any final thoughts then?
Yeah, I mean, I think this you're starting to see. I mean, they really just needed a get right game. They get their, we talked about maybe it was, get your swag on or whatever. They needed to get some confidence back. Feel good about themselves. I think that happened tonight. They're in a really good place still, 23-7. Win the next game, finish 24-7, 15-5 in the Big Ten against one of the top. I think it's the 11th ranked schedule in the country or something like that. So they've challenged themselves. They've got some great wins. 6 quad 1A wins. And so they're in a good spot. Now you just got to keep tweaking and keep getting better. I think this team will a lot of what will dictate how far they go will come down to matchups in March.
I agree.
And if they get the right matchups, they have some opportunity. I'll say this, watching Arizona play, I know they're really good. They're a better matchup for Illinois than like a Michigan would be. I think and that doesn't mean Arizona Michigan play. I'm not saying I'd pick Michigan. I probably would, but I think it'd be very competitive. But I think Illinois matches up better with Arizona than they do with Michigan.
And certainly we're finding UCLA is up 37-24 right before the half. They're definitely not a good matchup for Nebraska tonight in the first half.
Yeah, well, here's the other part about that no teams don't go out there and win that USC UCLA matchup very often, both games.
Right, exactly.
It's tough, and especially Illinois would have been better off playing UCLA the first game and then playing USC on the back end, because I think USC is bad. And so I think, and they're not, they're like locked, they're done, they've checked out. So, but Nebraska, same thing. If they played UCLA the other night, they probably win, and then they're playing USC tonight, and they probably win that one. So,
although if Illinois would have just played 14 minutes of the UCLA game, they might have won.
Yeah, instead of just 9 or 11 or whatever it was. Yeah. So no, you're exactly right. And so I think that's where that's a tough thing to do. And, Nebraska's kind of getting theirs, and this is what happens in the Big Ten. And, you start looking at this with these teams losing. Texas Tech was ranked ahead of Illinois. They lost. You win on Sunday. You start thinking about where they're going to be in the polls. Another loss for Iowa State already lost this week. And all these things, you could see them, if they have another impressive win on Sunday, they could end up in, even rankings, up to 7, 6, something like that. And then it really works in the minds of people to see them ranked that highly heading into the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, a couple questions for you real quick, Brad. What do you think the chances are that Iowa can win in Lincoln this weekend?
I mean, Iowa's an enigma in the sense that one day I think they're really good. I think they've got a chance. And the next day I think they're just abjectly awful, right? You know what I mean? So so I don't know. Bennett Sturtz is a guy. I think Iowa can win about anywhere. Sturtz is really good. He shares guys, but they are they're a little bit like Illinois, that when they shoot the ball well, they have a chance. But the other thing, they don't have the rebounding and all of that Illinois has, so that they don't have the margin for error. Illinois can shoot 28% and still win. Iowa can't do that. They have to shoot the ball well to win, and Sturtz is obviously a key. But when you have a guy like Bennett Sturtz, you have an opportunity to win. But I would pick Nebraska. But I'm hoping for Iowa to win that one.
And then one final question, then we'll wrap this up at the hour mark here. But if Illinois plays Purdue, could that be a game to see who plays in St. Louis?
I mean, I don't think it's quite that simplistic. Okay. It depends. I mean, who knows? I mean, I think Illinois is well ahead of Purdue right now on the S-curve, just because of the way Purdue's been playing of late. But the other side of this is it could be. I think Illinois, if they win their next 2 games, they're probably going to end up in St. Louis regardless. I think that's what they've kind of been hinting towards. There's no guarantee. You don't get to pick your site unless you're the number 1 overall seed.
Right.
So, we'll kind of see. But I think, I think it's possible that they end up there. I think it's possible. The reality is I don't know that it's not possible that both teams end up in St. Louis, right? I mean,
I would think that Illinois' ability to sell tickets in St. Louis and get more people at the border battle than Missouri would be very enticing to the NCAA to get some excitement in some of those games.
Oh, no question. I agree with you. I think that, they look at things like that. So I think that's very possible. I mean, who else would be in St. Louis? Who would be the other, let's say, top 2, 3 seed?
Michigan?
Michigan, no. Michigan wants. They're going to be in Philadelphia. They chose Philadelphia.
Okay.
So Michigan's wants Philadelphia, Chicago. So I don't think Illinois gets Chicago for the second round. I do think they get St. Louis as long as they take care of business here, and then they're probably either going to be, then you go into that regional round, and I could see them in any place but Chicago, which could be like Washington D.C. if they're with Duke. It could be Houston. And then what's the other one? Is it San Jose?
I'm all for Houston then.
Yeah, no. Yeah, Houston would be great. I think, and I think, the East too. I mean, it's hard to get by Duke, but I mean, I think if you're in Houston with, let's say, Arizona, that would be kind of cool. So I don't know. Does Arizona go out west? How do they do it? It's interesting to see how the committee's going to set this up, because Arizona might rather have Houston. What's that fourth site? What's the west site for the regional final?
I don't have that in front.
Why am I drawing a blank?
Yeah, I don't have it in me. You looking at that, right? Yeah, I'm trying to get it called up here.
Brandon said San Diego. Is that right?
So it looks like what? Oh, for God's sakes.
I mean, I know it's Chicago, it's Houston, and DC.
Yeah, and I'm seeing that, and it's like the darn search engines are not working fast enough here for me. So maybe it's San Jose, but
I thought it was San Jose.
Looks like. Yeah, I'm not getting it. Oh, there we are. Here we are. Let's see. So the DC, Chicago, San Jose, Houston,
and Houston. Yeah.
So yeah.
So yeah.
Yep. Houston, San Jose, Chicago, DC.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, where do they put Arizona? Florida go to the south, maybe. Do they put Yukon to the west? Do they put, I don't know. Who knows where they ship everybody?
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
that's part of the fun. That's part of the fun of doing that show that week. So we will end it here, folks. Join IlliniGuys.com if you are looking for the latest in Illini news and notes and information. We'd love to have you there. And of course, we will be back for the game. We will have post-game coverage for sure. We may do a halftime show. We'll see if Marcus Griffin isn't coaching. We can get him on and have some fun, and of course get prepared for the Big Ten tournament. And then basically the final exam is where you end up in the NCAA tournament, and that's the key. So until next time, folks, go Illini.